The 1906 San Francisco earthquake was a 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit the San Francisco Bay in California. This was caused by a rupture in the San Andreas Fault between the North American Plate and the Pacific Plate. When these two plates collided, that caused a massive vibration and an earthquake that caused 3,000 fatalities and left 300,000 residents homeless and their livelihoods destroyed. $400 million worth of infrastructure was destroyed in total, and this partly had to do with, the intense shaking and the earthquakes themselves, the landslides caused by the earthquakes, but also the majority of the damages had to do with the fires, the widespread fires throughout the city that were caused mainly by broken gas mains, not enough water to put out the fires, and then an abundance of flammable materials scattered in the remains of collapsed buildings. So these damages, resulted in the destruction of the telephone system, the electrical grid, transportation system, which meant that residents were trapped in the city. But the mayor, Eugene Smits, along with the local government, did a good job at issuing a state of emergency and combating starvation by cooperating with the California State Guard and bringing in, important goods to citizens in need. The Red Cross worked with local banks and religious organizations to provide stuff like food, clothing, and also just funds for personal use so they could rebuild the city. And also they divided the city into 7 relief sections, and 500 sanitary inspectors were selected to check the overcrowded areas and make sure that there wasn't any disease outbreaks. So I think the recovery process was very rapid and disease was limited, but at the same time, they might have rebuilt too quickly to the point where there was too much lumber being brought in, and so this caused massive deforestation of Douglas fir trees in the Pacific Northwest region. And also, a lot of pollution remains were dumped into the San Francisco Bay, which caused a ton of pollution, and it completely messed with the marine ecosystem in the region. With that being said, this earthquake really taught developers a lot about how to construct skyscrapers, especially with flexible support beams that reach all the way down to bedrock, which is a much sturdy material. That way, liquefaction doesn't affect these buildings anymore. But there's a lot of residential homes that are still impacted because they don't have these types of support beams. So as you can see in the picture below, there's a ton of landfill areas throughout the city that are at risk of pretty much collapsing because they mostly consist of sand and soft soils and things of that nature, rather than buildings being secured by bedrock. So if another earthquake were to occur today, the city would still be relatively unprepared, especially in residential areas. But the fact that developers have learned a lot from this, I think, and obviously with the recent news about the Syria and Turkey earthquake, I think we can learn a lot from that one as well, because it has a similar death toll compared to the San Francisco earthquake. I think both of these can just teach us that, first of all, we need to consider where we're buying our homes. Like, if you're going to live there, you have to be aware of the risks associated with it. But also for developers, they need to build or construct their buildings with more strong support beams, rather than securing their buildings in soft soils that can easily liquefy. So just overall, just understanding the impacts of this and just looking to learn from these devastating natural disasters, and just also creating reliable evacuation procedures and things like that in vulnerable areas so that if this were to happen again, we'd be fully prepared, or at least mostly prepared, for evacuations. So yeah, that's about it.